Have you ever found yourself just completely blindsided? You start your day, maybe things are looking okay, you've got your coffee, and then wham, you run into someone who just feels like a human speed bump,
Oh, yeah. Definitely know that feeling.
right? Maybe it's that colleague who always has that little dig, or the family member who's just perfected passive aggression, or even like a customer who genuinely seems to think the entire universe should revolve around their immediate problem.
Yep, seen that one too.
And suddenly all that calm you tried to build up, it just vanishes. You get that knot of frustration, maybe some anger bubbles up, or you just feel drained.
Yeah, exhausted. Like your whole inner peace just got hijacked by someone else's negativity.
Exactly. We've all been there. It's that really unwelcome feeling, like external stuff is suddenly dictating how you feel inside.
It really is, and it can throw your whole day off track.
Okay, so let's unpack this. Today we're doing a really deep dive into some ancient wisdom. Specifically, the insights of the Stoics, and particularly the Roman Emperor, Marcus Aurelius.
A fascinating figure.
Absolutely. And our mission here is to try and arm you, the listener, with some powerful, genuinely time-tested ways to handle these kinds of interactions, these challenging people.
Techniques that actually work, not just nice ideas.
Right. We want to figure out how to approach everyone with fairness, maybe forgiveness, definitely kindness, no matter how they're acting towards us.
It's almost like mental self-defense, or maybe mental martial arts.
I like that. Mental martial arts.
Yeah.
Turning those moments of friction, those clashes, into opportunities to build up your inner strength, your resilience, and ultimately your sense of justice.
And thinking about Marcus Aurelius, he actually started his day, like preparing for this exact thing.
Yeah, that's amazing, isn't it? He'd mentally get ready to meet the arrogant, the selfish, the angry, but not with dread.
No, not with dread at all. More with this understanding that deep down, they're just like him.
Yeah.
Like us. They're just mistaken. Mistaken about what's truly good or bad.
That shift in perspective,
Yeah.
that's huge. And that's really what we want to explore today.
Yeah.
So to help us navigate this, we pulled together some really great sources. We're looking at works like A Guide to the Good Life by William B. Irvine that gives a great modern take,
Irvine's fantastic for making it accessible.
and A Handbook for New Stoics, which is full of practical exercises, plus Breakfast with Seneca, which is more narrative, and of course the big one, Marcus Aurelius' own Meditations.
Which is just incredibly personal and raw in places. You really feel like you're reading his private journal.
Totally. And these aren't, dusty old philosophy books just for academics. They feel more like handbooks, practical guides for living a calmer, more virtuous life.
Yeah, the art of living, as they called it.
Exactly. Now, you might be sitting there thinking, okay, ancient philosophy, how's that going to help me with my nightmare boss or, my neighbor who complains about everything?
It's a fair question.
It is. But honestly, get ready for some potential aha moments. Because the Stoics, they were kind of like the original psychologists and life coaches, in a way.
They really were focused on practical application. How does this help me now?
And their advice, we're going to find, is surprisingly relevant. It's like a toolkit for keeping your cool and acting justly, even when the world around you feels a bit chaotic. This deep dive isn't just about learning stuff. It's about potentially changing how you handle things.
Absolutely. And host, what's always striking is how persistent those initial ideas about Stoicism are. The misconceptions.
Right, like the whole emotionless thing.
Exactly. You hear Stoic and you picture someone totally blank, grim, unfeeling, like impervious to joy or pain, that modern lowercase stoical idea.
Stiff upper lip and all that.
Yeah. But our sources, especially Irvine's work in A Guide to the Good Life, he makes it so clear that this common picture is mostly wrong. He actually says almost everything he thought he knew initially was incorrect.
Wow, okay.
Their goal was never to just banish all emotion. In fact, Seneca specifically warned against apathy. He called it a deficiency of the soul.
So not numbness.
Definitely not numbness.
Yeah.
True Stoicism was about targeting specific negative emotions. Things like debilitating grief, that corrosive anger that eats you up, paralyzing anxiety. Those were the targets.
The ones that really mess you up and stop you from thinking clearly.
Precisely. And far from being emotionless, they actually welcomed and actively sought positive emotions. Joy, deep affection, contentment. These were good things.
So a joyful Stoic isn't a contradiction.
Not at all. It's actually a pretty accurate description of their ideal state. It was about, let's say, refining your emotional landscape, not bulldozing it flat.
That's such a key difference. It reframes the whole thing, doesn't it? It's not suppression. It's Mastery.
Yeah.
Emotional mastery.
That's a great way to put it.
Allowing the good stuff to flourish while shielding yourself from the destructive stuff. But did it? Did it evolve? Was this focus always the same? Or did it shift maybe from the Greeks to the Romans?
That's a really good question. And yeah, there was a definite shift, a significant adaptation, actually. When you look at the bigger picture, the early Greek Stoics put a lot of weight on logic and physics. They saw them as crucial parts of the whole philosophical system.
Kind of the theoretical underpinnings.
Exactly. But the Romans, they were famously pragmatic, focused on civic duty, practical living. They naturally gravitated more towards the ethical side of Stoicism.
How to actually live it.
Right. So by the time we get to Marcus Aurelius, who's considered the last of the great Roman Stoics, logic and physics had kind of faded into the background. Marcus even pats himself on the back in the Meditations for not wasting time on, complex logical arguments, syllogisms.
Huh. A little dig at the academics.
A subtle one, yeah. And while virtue living a good, rational life was still absolutely the #1 goal, a second goal really came to the forefront, maybe equally important for practical living, achieving tranquility, or ataraxia.
Okay, so tranquility wasn't just a nice bonus you got from being virtuous. It became a specific aim.
It really did, a central pillar.
And how is that different from just being zoned out?
Yeah.
That zombie-like state you mentioned.
Great question, because it's absolutely not that. That kind of detachment would actually go against the Stoic emphasis on rationality and engaging with life. No, Stoic tranquility was meant to be a robust, active psychological state.
Active tranquility. Tell me more about that.
Think of it like the calm confidence of a really experienced sea captain steering through a massive storm. They're not oblivious, they're not asleep below deck, they're fully aware, fully engaged, but calm and in control amidst the chaos.
Okay, I get that image.
So it's characterized by the absence of those really disruptive negative emotions. The paralyzing grief, the blinding anger, the consuming anxiety, but also, and this is crucial, the presence of appropriate positive emotions.
Like what?
Like feeling genuine joy for a friend's success, or deep affection for your family, for humanity even, or just simple contentment with your situation right now. It's that vibrant state of inner peace rooted in clear thinking that actually allows you to live virtuously and act effectively.
So it's being robustly present and calm, not numb or checked out.
Precisely.
That makes so much sense with what Epictetus taught, doesn't it? That philosophy's main job is the art of living.
Absolutely.
He saw it as intensely practical, not just theory. Like you said, the carpenter works with wood, the sculptor with bronze. Our life is the material we shape.
It's a medium, yeah.
And he wasn't just talking big ideas. He gave actual techniques, actionable advice for everyday stuff. How do you respond if someone insults you? How do you deal with someone incompetent or frustrating? How do you handle your angry sibling without losing it yourself?
Real world stuff. And it wasn't just academic advice. He made a serious promise to his students. He basically said, if you master these practical techniques, you will live a life filled with purpose, with dignity, and crucially, with that deep, lasting tranquility.
Oh, he promised it.
He did. He promised they'd find that inner peace and keep it no matter what life threw at them afterwards. Hardships, external craziness, none of it could take away that internal state once you truly built it.
So it wasn't just for quiet times. It was resilience for the tough time.
Exactly. It was about living better right here, right now, with real benefits. Managing your inner world, regardless of the outer chaos. He saw philosophy as a kind of therapy almost. A clinic for the soul, prescribing a regimen to heal our messed up emotional responses and cultivate a rational, virtuous, and calm existence.
That idea, finding tranquility amidst hardship, that really sets the scene perfectly for Marcus Aurelius, doesn't it? Because if anyone faced monumental challenges while trying to maintain inner peace, it was him.
Oh, absolutely. He's the ultimate case study.
He wasn't locked away in some ivory tower thinking deep thoughts. He was the emperor, the most powerful man in the known world, facing just constant, immense pressure.
The weight on his shoulders must have been unbelievable.
And his personal life, it was brutal. Sources suggest he likely had a chronic illness, maybe a stomach ulcer, that caused him pain for years.
Yeah, constant physical discomfort on top of everything else.
And then there's his wife, Faustina. Reports suggest she was unfaithful. Imagine that betrayal, that personal hurt, for anyone, let alone an emperor.
A deep potential source of bitterness for sure.
And the grief. They had at least 14 children, but only 6 lived to adulthood. 14. That level of repeated loss. It's almost impossible for us to fathom today.
Unimaginable sorrow, and all while trying to rule an empire.
Right. And ruling wasn't peaceful either. His reign was marked by constant conflict. Major uprisings on the frontiers, especially with Germanic tribes along the Danube. He had to lead military campaigns personally for years, enduring horrible conditions.
Out there in the field, not sitting comfortably in Rome.
Exactly. And then, betrayal from within. His own trusted general, Avidius Cassius, governor of Syria, just declared himself emperor and started a civil war.
A massive stab in the back from someone he relied on.
Yet the sources say Marcus handled even insolent subordinates with an unruffled temper. Amazing. People apparently told jokes about him openly, and he didn't punish them.
Which shows incredible tolerance and maybe humility for someone with that much power.
And on top of all that, the empire itself was suffering. There was the Antonine Plague, this devastating epidemic that killed millions, wiped out huge parts of the population. There were famines, natural disasters like a massive earthquake.
It was just relentless, a constant barrage of crises, personal, military, political, natural, everything at once. It truly puts his stoicism to the ultimate test.
It's almost mind-boggling, the sheer weight of it all. So when Marcus writes in his meditations that the art of living is more like wrestling than dancing, you totally get it.
Absolutely. It's such a perfect analogy.
It captures that Stoic view so well. Life isn't some graceful ballet where everything flows perfectly. It's a struggle. It's messy. It requires constant effort, grappling with challenges.
A very pragmatic, feet-on-the-ground view of reality.
And for you, the listener, thinking about this, it offers, I think, both comfort and a challenge.
How so?
Well, if an emperor dealing with plagues, rebellions, war, and profound personal loss, if he could find tranquility using these techniques, imagine what they could do for your everyday stuff.
Right. That difficult colleague, the gridlock traffic, the annoying relative, suddenly seem a bit more manageable in comparison.
It gives you perspective, doesn't it? It shows these tools are robust, they work under the most extreme pressure. Our struggles are real, absolutely, but maybe not quite on the scale of Marcus's, yet the tools he used are available to us right now.
It turns those daily annoyances into, like, practice sessions, opportunities to build that mental muscle.
Exactly. And think about that betrayal by Avidius Cassius, launching a civil war. Yet Marcus's response was famous for its clemency, its forgiveness. Totally unlike how most rulers would have reacted.
No brutal purges, no mass executions of suspected sympathizers.
No, he actually burned Cassius's private letters unread, deliberately choosing not to find out who else might have been involved, to prevent more bloodshed and try to heal the rift.
That takes incredible restraint and foresight.
And he recognized so wisely that it is impossible to make men exactly as one would wish them to be. We must use them such as they are. That's just pure Stoic pragmatism and compassion, isn't it?
It really is. It's not excusing bad behavior, but acknowledging human flaws, human imperfection, and still choosing a virtuous path focused on the bigger picture, not personal revenge.
Which ties right back to our mission today. Treating everyone with fairness, forgiveness, kindness, even the difficult ones. Marcus lived it.
And this really brings us, host, to a foundational piece, probably the cornerstone of Stoic practice, and the most powerful tool they offer for dealing with difficult people and situations, the famous dichotomy of control.
Ah, yes, the dichotomy of control.
Yeah.
Okay, let's break that down. It sounds simple, but I think the implications are huge.
They really are. Epictetus hammered this home constantly. It's a fundamental, non-negotiable distinction between things that are in our power and things that are not in our power. Everything else in Stoicism kind of flows from getting this distinction right.
Okay, so what specifically falls into each category? What is in our power, according to the Stoics? Because instinctively, we feel like we control more than maybe we actually do.
That's the crux of it. According to Epictetus, the only things truly, fully in our power are our internal states and actions. Specifically, our opinions, our judgments, our impulses, our motivation to act, our desires, our aversions, what we try to avoid. Basically, as he puts it, whatever are our own acts.
So our inner world, our choices, our thoughts, our reactions.
Exactly. And conversely, what's definitively not in our power? Well, pretty much everything else. Our body, its health, its aging, our property, our reputation, what others think of us, external positions or jobs, and critically for today's deep dive, the actions, words, and attitudes of other people.
Okay, that's the big one. Other people's behavior is not in our power.
Not directly, no. Their choices, their opinions, how they treat you ultimately, that's up to them. And recognizing this, Epictetus argued, isn't just an intellectual exercise, it's the key. The absolute key to inner freedom and peace.
It sounds incredibly freeing on one level, but couldn't it also feel a bit passive? Like, if someone's acting unjustly or a situation's bad, are we just supposed to say, oh, well, not in my control and do nothing? How does that square with trying to make things better or confront problems?
That's a really important challenge and a common misunderstanding. The Stoics absolutely did not advocate passivity or inaction. Far from it. Think about Marcus Aurelius leading armies.
Good point. Not exactly passive.
Right. The nuance is this. You cannot guarantee the outcome of an external event or force another person to change their mind or behavior, but you absolutely do control your own effort, your intentions, and how virtuously you engage with the situation.
Okay, so you focus on your actions, not the results.
Precisely. If you see an injustice, your Stoic duty is to act justly. Speak up, intervene, advocate, do everything within your power, guided by reason and virtue. But then, if, after all your best virtuous efforts, the outcome still isn't what you hoped for, or the difficult person remains difficult, that's when you apply the dichotomy.
You detach from the outcome.
You detach from the outcome, which was never fully in your control anyway, and you find satisfaction and peace in the knowledge that you acted rightly. Your virtue is intact. Your inner state isn't dependent on the external result.
That makes sense. It shifts the goalpost from controlling the world to controlling yourself within the world.
Exactly. And think about how often we give away our power without realizing it. Waiting anxiously for an apology that might never arrive, letting your whole mood tank because of a snippy email from a colleague.
Guilty as charged.
We all do it.
Yeah.
But the Stoics would say it's not the email itself that's harming you. It's your judgment about the email, your assent to the idea that it shouldn't have happened or that it must change for you to be okay.
So we're kind of complicit in our own disturbance.
In a way, yes. The real freedom Epictetus promised comes from reclaiming that mental territory, recognizing I can't control the email, the lack of apology, the other person's mood, but I have total control over my response, my interpretation, and my decision about whether or not to let it disturb my inner peace.
It's about taking back sovereignty over your own mind.
Perfectly put. Epictetus was blunt. If you obsess over things outside your control, you will be hindered, you will complain, you will blame everyone else, maybe even the gods.
Yeah.
But if you focus only on what's truly yours, your judgments, your choices, your actions then, he says, no man will ever compel you, no man will hinder you. You will do nothing involuntarily. You essentially become psychologically invincible. You have no real enemy because nothing external can truly harm your core self.
So for the listener, this isn't just a concept to understand intellectually. It's like a mental filter you have to actively use day in, day out.
It's a practice, a daily exercise, constantly asking, is this in my control or not? It helps you direct your energy where it actually counts on your own thoughts and actions instead of wasting it trying to force external things or other people to conform to your wishes.
It really does sound like the foundation for self-mastery.
It absolutely is. And Epictetus didn't mince words. He basically promised that if you truly live by this distinction, your life will be marked by a deep serenity, regardless of what's happening externally. Because happiness, that eudaimonia, that flourishing life, isn't found in getting what you want externally.
Where is it found then?
It's found in making good judgments. And your judgments, unlike external events or other people, are always within your control, which means, ultimately, you are in charge of your own happiness, your own peace, your own ability to act virtuously.
That puts the power squarely back in your own hands.
Completely. It's an incredibly empowering realization, often overlooked.
Okay, but this brings up that really tricky, maybe counterintuitive question. If someone is being genuinely difficult, maybe arrogant, selfish, even causing harm, how does this dichotomy help us deal with them, especially if we're letting go of trying to control or change their behavior?
Right. This leads us directly to another core Stoic insight, one that I personally find incredibly powerful, though sometimes hard to swallow initially. It's the belief that wrongdoing is involuntary.
Wrongdoing is involuntary. What does that even mean? It sounds like making excuses for bad behavior.
I know it sounds like that at first glance. But let's unpack Epictetus's thinking here. He said, no soul is robbed of the truth with its own consent. What he meant is, when people act badly, when they're selfish, arrogant, cruel, they generally don't do it thinking, aha, I shall now choose to be evil.
Okay, so what are they thinking?
They are acting based on their understanding, their own mistaken judgments about what is good or bad, right or wrong. They genuinely believe on some level that what they are doing is the right course of action for them, based on their flawed criteria, their ignorance, or maybe their own pain or fear. They are, in essence, mistaken, not inherently malicious.
So the arrogant person isn't trying to be a jerk just for kicks. They might genuinely believe their self-importance is correct, or maybe it's a defense mechanism.
Exactly. Or the selfish person genuinely believes prioritizing their needs above all others is the correct, rational thing to do, based on their mistaken value system. It's a massive shift from seeing malice everywhere to seeing error, ignorance,
Yeah.
mistaken judgment.
That changes how you feel about it, doesn't it? Moves you away from pure anger.
It does. It shifts you towards a kind of cognitive empathy. And there's a powerful Stoic exercise related to this, actively trying to take an inside view of the other person's actions.
An inside view. How does that work?
Instead of just seeing their behavior from the outside, they cut me off, and focusing on your own reactions, I'm so angry, you consciously try to imagine why their action might seem reasonable to them. You ask, what false belief are they operating under? What fear might be driving this? What mistaken idea about good and evil have they accepted?
So you're trying to understand their flawed logic, not excuse the action itself.
Precisely. You don't have to condone the behavior, especially if it's harmful, but understanding its likely roots in their internal mistaken world. That's incredibly powerful.
What's the payoff for trying to do that, especially when they're actively making your life difficult?
The payoff is primarily for you. This practice almost automatically fosters sympathy, or at the very least, it dramatically reduces your own anger and resentment. It stops you from taking their actions so personally. It creates distance. It allows you to respond more rationally and effectively because you're not blinded by your own emotional reaction.
Like Marcus Aurelius reminding himself that these difficult people were fundamentally like him, just mistaken.
Exactly that. He saw shared humanity beneath the flawed behavior. This empathetic approach is like an antidote to the poison of anger and blame. It helps you deal with the situation without letting it wreck your own inner peace. It effectively disarms the emotional bomb.
That's profound. Seeing them as mistaken, not malicious. And it leads right into Marcus's point about forbearance, doesn't it? He said, forbearance is a part of justice.
Yes. When you truly grasp that wrongdoing often comes from ignorance or error, not pure evil, it just becomes easier to practice forgiveness, or at least patience. Kindness comes more naturally than resentment.
It lets you let go, respond rationally, and ultimately, as Marcus aimed for, to be at rest internally, rather than constantly churned up by things that are, by definition, outside your direct control.
Which brings us neatly, host, to another really practical, fascinating piece of the Stoic toolkit. Mastering your reactions through what they called the discipline of assent.
The discipline of assent. Okay, this sounds like where the rubber meets the road, as they say.
It really is. This is about managing your judgments in real time. The Stoics taught, very radically, that if you're upset about anything external, an insult, a setback, someone being difficult, it's not the thing itself that afflicts you, but your judgment about it. And it is in your power to correct this judgment and get quit of it.
Whoa. Okay, say that again. It's not the thing, it's my judgment about the thing.
Exactly. Your suffering doesn't come directly from the external event or the other person. It comes from your interpretation, the value judgment you attach to that event. And that judgment, that's entirely within your power to change.
That's huge. But it can feel a bit abstract. Can you give us a concrete example? Maybe one Marcus himself used?
Sure. Marcus used a great simple example in the Meditations. A bitter cucumber.
A bitter cucumber, okay.
The objective fact, the external reality is just, this cucumber is bitter. That's it. Neutral observation.
Okay.
But if you then add, oh, why do bitter cucumbers even exist? Or this is terrible, Zeus shouldn't allow such things. Now you are adding a value judgment, a complaint. You are imposing your desire for non-bitter cucumbers onto reality.
Ah, I see. The bitterness is just a fact. The, oh, this is bad, is my addition.
Precisely. That judgment, that complaint, is your free contribution. It deviates from objective reality, and that's what causes the distress, not the cucumber's inherent bitterness. The cucumber just is. Your judgment turns it into a problem.
We inject the suffering ourselves through our interpretation.
Okay.
So, a key technique then for managing these judgments must be about creating some space, resisting that immediate reaction, what some people call cognitive distancing.
Exactly right. It's about creating a crucial pause, a mental buffer zone between the external trigger and your internal response. Epictetus gave brilliant advice on this. It is not enough to be hit or insulted to be harmed. You must believe that you are being harmed.
So the harm requires my consent, my belief.
Yes. And he continues, if someone succeeds in provoking you, realize that your mind is complicit in the provocation. You let them in. So his practical advice, take a moment, pause before you react.
How? Like count to 10?
Could be counting to 10. Could be taking a deep breath, maybe stepping away for a minute, literally taking a short walk. or just a conscious mental step back. Anything to interrupt that knee-jerk reaction and allow your reason, your rational mind, to re-engage before raw emotion takes over.
Give your thinking brain a chance to catch up with your emotional brain.
Exactly. Seneca had that vivid image of unchecked anger being like falling off a building, totally out of control, hurtling downwards. That pause, that's your chance to grab onto something, to choose how you land instead of just crashing. It's consciously using your power of assent, asking yourself, is this really a harm? Or am I just judging it as harmful?
I love that image from one of the sources about handling insults like a rock.
Oh yeah, that's a great one.
It asks, have you ever tried to insult a rock? How did it go? The point being, the insult, the external thing, just bounces off unless you decide to absorb it, unless you assent to the idea that it has power over you.
If you refuse to validate it, refuse to accept it as a harm, it just passes by. It has no hook, no grip on your inner state.
It's like water off a duck's back, as the saying goes.
Right. And Seneca added another really insightful layer to this. It's not just about detaching from the insult, it's about self-reflection. He suggested, let us put ourselves in the place of the person with whom we are angry.
Empathy again.
Yes, but with a twist. He says, from their perspective, we might see that our anger often comes from an unwarranted opinion of ourselves. We get angry because we're unwilling to tolerate something from them that maybe in a different situation we might have been willing to inflict on someone else.
Ouch. That's a challenging thought. It points the finger back at our own ego, our own double standards.
Exactly. It's not just about their bad behavior. It's about our inflated sense of self, our internal rules about how people must treat us. It's a powerful call for humility and self-awareness. It deflates that righteous anger and replaces it with something more reasoned, more just, and ultimately more compassionate. It helps cultivate that fairness and forgiveness we're aiming for.
So we've really dug into the internal stuff, managing judgments, the dichotomy of control, understanding our emotional responses. But the Stoics didn't think we lived in bubbles, right? We started by talking about dealing with difficult people. How does all this internal work connect back to our interactions in the external social world?
That's a crucial connection, because the Stoics were absolutely clear. We are not isolated individuals. A core tenet of their philosophy is that human nature is fundamentally social. We are, by design, social animals.
Wired for connection.
Exactly. They believed we have this innate natural affection, philostorgia, that goes beyond just our immediate family. It's supposed to extend to all rational beings, basically all of humanity. This isn't just a nice idea. It's a foundational belief that shapes their whole ethical system.
And that leads to that really big kind of radical idea of the cosmopolis, right? The world city.
Yes.
Yeah.
Still a radical idea today, honestly. They believed we're citizens of two communities at the same time. First, our local one, our family, city, nation. But second, and maybe more importantly, we are citizens of the cosmopolis, the world city.
A city made up of everyone.
Everyone, all human beings, regardless where they're from, their status, their beliefs, we are all fellow citizens in this vast human community. It's a powerful idea that cuts through tribalism, nationalism, prejudice. It says your duty of care, your sense of kinship extends to all of humanity.
Wow. So that difficult person, that annoying colleague, they're also a fellow citizen of the cosmopolis.
In the Stoic view, yes, it shifts your perspective from us versus them to something more like, okay, we're all in this together trying to figure things out, even if some of us are making mistakes or being difficult along the way. It's not about being naive, but about recognizing a fundamental shared humanity which promotes cooperation and mutual benefit.
So virtue, especially justice, is key to Stoic happiness, that eudaimonia. But what did justice mean to them in this big cosmopolitan context, especially when dealing with people who seem unjust themselves?
Yeah, their idea of justice was much broader than just legal rules. It was one of the four cardinal virtues alongside wisdom, courage, and temperance. And in this context, justice included things like reciprocity, fair exchange, acting for mutual advantage, having genuine goodwill or benevolence towards others, and actively trying to solve problems of cooperation and conflict peacefully.
So it's about acting for the common good, not just your own.
Exactly. Recognizing our interconnectedness. Marcus Aurelius talks about this constantly in the Meditations: justice, kindness, natural affection, the brotherhood of man. He saw all rational beings as his brothers and sisters in a very real sense. He famously said people are made for one another.
Made for cooperation, not conflict.
That was the ideal, yes. So Stoic justice is less about punishment and more about this ingrained disposition to act rightly and benevolently towards everyone because we're all part of the same human family.
Okay, but here's the practical crunch point again. How do we bridge that gap between these huge ideas of cosmopolitan justice and brotherhood and the reality of dealing with someone who's being genuinely infuriating, maybe cutting you off in traffic or spreading gossip at work? How do we live these virtues consistently in the messy day-to-day?
And that's precisely where Epictetus would say the real work happens, in those mundane, often irritating daily moments. The work of living, he called it, is about setting high standards for yourself, standards of virtue, integrity, rational conduct, and then crucially, not compromising them no matter the situation.
So consistency is key.
Absolutely. It applies to everything. Brushing your teeth mindfully, choosing friends based on character, and yes, dealing with that difficult person who seems determined to push all your buttons. Every single interaction, no matter how small, becomes an opportunity.
An opportunity to practice virtue.
Exactly. An opportunity to practice patience, fairness, kindness, rationality. It's about consistent, conscious effort, what they call agentic activity, aimed at making your virtues stronger than your vices, making sure your virtues work together, and actually living them out in your actions. It's an ongoing, relentless commitment to being your best self, even, and perhaps especially when others aren't being theirs. Every interaction is like a mini test for your philosophy.
So if we want to make real progress in this art of living, it demands constant attention, ongoing self-monitoring. It's not like you read a book and you're suddenly a perfect Stoic.
Not even close. It's a lifelong practice. Continuous self-monitoring is non-negotiable. Especially if you struggle with strong emotions or negative patterns, you have to constantly watch your mental state, your reactions, your judgments.
How do they suggest doing that?
Through critical reflection, catching those initial automatic impressions, he insulted me, and examining them before you automatically assent to the judgment, that's terrible, I'm hurt. Epictetus famously compared his school to a medical clinic.
A clinic for the soul.
Pretty much. Students were like patients, identifying their specific mental and moral weaknesses, and then following prescribed regimens to heal them. Things like daily journaling, meditation, structured self-review at the end of the day.
So actively working on yourself, constantly asking, what thought just popped into my head? Did I agree with it automatically? Was my judgment rational, or was emotion hijacking it?
Exactly those kinds of questions. It's discipline awareness.
And that inside view technique seems like a core part of this monitoring when dealing with others. Can you walk us through another specific example of applying that?
Sure. Let's take that common scenario. A coworker who always seems to take credit for work the whole team did. It's incredibly frustrating, makes you feel undervalued.
Yeah, definitely been there.
Okay, so your initial impulse, your desire, might be, I want them to stop doing that. Or I want everyone else to see what they're really like, right?
Totally.
The Handbook for New Stoics exercise would first have you counter that desire. Remind yourself their behavior is external, not fully in your control. Then you take the inside view. You actively ask, okay, why might they be doing this? Is it deep insecurity? Do they feel invisible otherwise? Were they maybe raised in a super competitive environment where taking individual credit was the only way to get noticed? Are they maybe just completely lacking self-awareness about how this impacts others? Or are they under some immense pressure I don't know about?
So you're brainstorming possible, maybe more charitable explanations for their behavior.
Exactly. Again, not to excuse it, but to understand the potential mistaken reasons behind it. This process creates that sympathetic detachment. It cools down your anger. It allows you to then address the behavior itself, maybe by speaking to them calmly or documenting contributions clearly, but from a place of reason, not resentment. You handle the situation without letting their actions poison your own peace of mind.
It loops right back to that wrongdoing is involuntary idea. My desire should be to act virtuously myself, not to force their behavior to change, because that's external.
Precisely. You focus on your virtuous response, informed by this attempt at understanding.
This also sounds like it connects really well to premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. We usually hear about that for things like losing your job or getting sick. But how can we use it specifically for dealing with difficult people?
It's a fantastic application. Instead of just vaguely bracing for bad things, you get specific. You anticipate encountering difficult people or predictable interactions.
Like before going into that meeting with the boss who's always critical.
Exactly. Or before a family dinner with that relative who always stirs up drama, you mentally rehearse. You think, okay, I am likely going to encounter someone today who might be arrogant or unfair or maybe just plain grumpy. They might say something provocative. They might try to push my buttons.
So you're not surprised when it happens.
Right. You're not caught off guard. But crucially, you don't stop there. You then rehearse your virtuous response. You walk through it mentally. Okay, when they say X, I will remember the dichotomy of control. Their words are external. My reaction is internal. I will try to take an inside view what mistaken belief might be driving them. And most importantly, I will pause. I will breathe. I will not immediately assent to anger or frustration.
You're programming your desired response ahead of time.
You are. You're reinforcing your commitment to fairness, kindness, and rationality before you're in the heat of the moment. It prevents that impulsive, reactive behavior. It's like doing an emotional fire drill. You practice the escape route so you don't panic when the alarm actually goes off.
It's proactive mental defense.
Yeah.
I like that.
It really is. Choosing reason over reaction, virtue over vice, by preparing for the challenge.
So if someone really commits to all of this, the dichotomy, the discipline of assent, the inside view, the premeditation consistently, day after day, what's the ultimate promise? What did Epictetus say happens?
Epictetus promised that this kind of consistent application every day in every situation, big or small, leads inevitably to a profound state of serenity, ataraxia, and an unshakable attitude of equanimity.
Equanimity, meaning?
Meaning balanced, stable, undisturbed. It's not passive resignation, though. It's an active, engaged resilience. If things go well, great. Be thankful, enjoy it. If things don't go well, if people are difficult, if plans fail, you remain resilient, adaptable. Your inner core remains undisturbed.
You roll with the punches, but from a place of strength.
Exactly. This proactive engagement helps you systematically strengthen your virtues and weaken your vices. It helps you coordinate your virtues, make sure your courage doesn't become recklessness, your justice doesn't become harshness, and it optimizes your ability to act well, to be your best self in everything you do. The end result: a life largely free from inner turmoil, a life of peace and self-mastery, where the difficult actions of others simply don't have the power to control your state of mind anymore.
Wow. What an incredible framework. We've covered so much ground today, really diving deep into this Stoic wisdom. We started by busting that myth of the emotionless Stoic, realizing it's about banishing the negative emotions while welcoming the positive.
Right, aiming for that active tranquility.
Then we looked at Marcus Aurelius, the emperor, wrestling with unimaginable pressures, proving these aren't just fair-weather philosophies. His life was wrestling, not dancing.
Putting the principles to the ultimate test.
We unpack the huge concept of the dichotomy of control, figuring out what's truly ours to manage, our judgments, our actions, and letting go of the rest, including other people's behavior.
The key to inner freedom.
Which led us to that really profound, challenging idea that wrongdoing is often involuntary, stemming from mistake or ignorance, not malice. That allows for sympathy, for forbearance.
Shifting from anger to understanding.
And we got practical with the discipline of assent, learning to pause, to question our initial judgments, to not automatically believe we're harmed by external events or words, using that cognitive distance.
Mastering our internal responses. The cucumber, the rock.
Exactly. And finally, we zoomed out to see how all this connects to the bigger picture of justice and cosmopolitanism, recognizing our shared humanity, our role as social animals, and striving for fairness, forgiveness, and kindness in all our interactions, even the tough ones.
Connecting the inner work to our outer actions.
So for everyone listening, remember, the goal in dealing with difficult people, from the Stoic perspective, isn't really about changing them. It's about changing your relationship to their actions.
It's about securing your own inner citadel.
Exactly. Making your mind a fortress, immune to those external attacks, by consciously exercising your power of judgment moment by moment.
Taking back control of your inner world.
So here's a final thought to mull over as you go about your day, as you encounter all the different personalities life inevitably throws your way. Consider this. What if every single challenging person you meet isn't actually an obstacle, not just a disruption to your peace?
Okay.
What if they are, in fact, a perfectly tailored opportunity? Sent by the universe, perhaps, specifically for you. An opportunity to practice the exact virtues you want to build: patience, empathy, justice, resilience, kindness. What if, just by being themselves, however difficult, they are inadvertently offering you the perfect workout for your soul? What wisdom might be hidden in that interaction, if you look at it that way?